different ways. One of them was the injury story afterwards. Dan, let's run through some of those. Micah Parsons, what do we know?
Injured his ankle. They x-rayed it after the game. The x-rays came back fine, but he's going to have an MRI today on that ankle to see what kind of injury it is, what kind of damage there is, what kind of timetable he may have. He was telling people last night he would do what he could to get back in time for next week's game. Of course, they have the extra 3 days, but once we figure out the severity of that, we will know more on timetable. Their other edge rusher, DeMarcus Lawrence, injured his foot in the third quarter of this game, did not return to the game. We saw him come back to the sideline. He was getting taped up on the sideline, but he did not come back in, so that's certainly something to watch if they're compromised at the edge rush positions next week against Pittsburgh, with one or both of those guys potentially out. And then Malik Neighbors, the incredible Giants rookie, you mentioned it, Greeny, he has suffered a concussion late in the game. Obviously did not return to the game, diagnosed with a concussion, so he'll enter the concussion protocol. He'll have to complete each step in order, be cleared by the independent neurotrauma consultant before he's cleared to play. Again, the Giants, like the Cowboys, have 3 extra days before their Week 5 game, so that gives you at least some hope that he can get through that process, although, as we've said a billion times, it's different for everyone.
They will be at Seattle a week from Sunday. He is inarguably the most watchable, if not the only watchable thing about the Giants. But so, Marcus, I want to channel somebody. If this was a talk show, if we were a radio talk show, we would have a caller named Angry Pete from New Jersey. His Pete McConville. He is the executive producer of our show. You know him well. He's just an angry fellow from New Jersey. And he went off in our meeting this morning about Daniel Jones, and I would like to try and channel him as best I can. It can all be summed up really by one play. Can we roll that play, Cindy? It's the first play of the second quarter. There is no play that an NFL quarterback loves more than a free play. The Giants clearly have a free play, right? The Cowboys have jumped off sides. They have Darius Slayton running down the field. He's 5 yards clear of the defense before that ball is thrown. He has to stop running. The reason that it looks closer and Diggs is able to get back and make the interception is because Slayton had to just stop, like literally stop running. And it was in that moment that Pete and all the other angry Giant fans said, I've seen enough. We need to move on. This guy just isn't getting it done and isn't going to. It was a mistake to sign him. We all kind of knew it. Even the Giants kind of knew it when they did it. They were sort of forced into doing it, and they need to rectify that and move on now. If one were to say that, if Angry Pete says that this morning, Marcus, what do you say?
He would be absolutely correct. Okay, and it's not about, like, Daniel Jones had good moments, unbeknownst to a lot of people after we watched that. But after that particular play last night, I went on X and I tweeted, is Daniel Jones' arm strength gone? Because that is a ball that you put almost on the goal line with that type of, like, Diggs was beat. And I'm sure he probably was thinking a double move, or they were going to just try to get the ball past the sticks in that particular situation. Obviously, sometimes the DBs don't know it's a free play. But the fact that you underthrow this guy, and honestly, it's more glaring now as we wake up this morning, because that could have been the difference in the game when you start thinking about that. Daniel Jones has these moments of inconsistency that you think to yourself, like, he threw some balls across the middle of the field where you're like, oh, that's an NFL professional quarterback throw. And then he comes back and does things like that. Or he dirts a ball in certain situations. I don't know. Like, and that's the worst thing you can say about a quarterback. I need you to either be bad so we can make a decision, or I need you to be good so we know where we are. Daniel Jones is neither. He's in the middle of abyss, somewhere where nobody else lives. And when you look at these numbers and you compare it to the play, it's like, I don't know if we can go further with this guy based on what we're trying to do offensively. And thank God for Malik Neighbors, because if he didn't have Malik Neighbors, I don't know what this game would have looked like.
Angry Pete from New Jersey is going to call into Bart and Hahn on ESPN Radio today and is going to say they need to bench Daniel Jones right now. What are you going to say?
Not right now. I think he still gives him the best chance to win. I think he didn't, he would like to have that throwback, but he played good enough for them to win. They have to figure out how to get somebody else outside of Neighbors to step up. That's the problem. Like, too often that we can't really evaluate Daniel Jones because he has the worst roster, the 32nd best roster in football. So, like, outside of Neighbors, who's a rookie, like you said, he's been there 15 minutes, Swagoo. He's their best player. They don't have
Yep.
the ability to run the ball, so they had to put it in Danny Dimes' arms. Like, Daniel Jones is going to be one of these quarterbacks that's going to go somewhere and hide away like Geno Smith, going to hide away like Sam Darnold. He's going to come back and get a second opportunity, and his second act is going to be far greater than his first.
Hey, Graziano, you know what the Giants could really use? Maybe they could sign, I don't know, like a player like Saquon Barkley. You know, like he probably wouldn't run for 1 yard a carry, and you would give your quarterback another option. And like, you know, that's who they could really use. If they could find a way to get a guy like Saquon
that would've helped
Barkley,
yesterday.
that might actually help a lot.
But they're going to block like that for Saquon Barkley? I mean, look at that hole he just ran through. Look, I mean, the issue with the Giants is they had a philosophical decision. We're not going to pay that much money to a running back. We'll let him go even if it's to a division rival. The flip side was they did pay the quarterback, and we're left to wonder if that was the right guy to pay, because
I
now
don't think anyone's
2 years
wondering
left
that.
on the deal.
Are we
and
wondering that?
Well, I'm just
We
saying,
not
like,
wondering.
so next year's salary is
We
$30
ain't
million.
wondering.
But, right,
$30 million for a
nothing.
starting NFL quarterback right now is a pretty good deal if he can play. But he's also got $23 million of that guaranteed against injury. So that's a little storyline to watch as the year goes on.
Context is everything. Go back to that graphic about when the ball is in the air 20 yards or more. The only people he's better than right now, when you look at this graphic, is Bryce Young, Will Levis, and Jacoby Brissett. And if we know this
Who the hell
stat,
he's throwing to?
but the opposing defensive coordinators know this. You know this, Bart. So the field gets compressed. You have to throw people out of these looks and get the ball over their heads. And be it Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, there are other players there. And to me, Daniel Jones being 25th in the league in completion percentage when the ball is 20 yards or more says a lot more about him than the surrounding cast.
I feel like we used to say the same thing about Sam Darnold, same thing about Geno Smith, a lot of quarterbacks in this league. Environment matters. They haven't surrounded.
The Giants had no run game, a bottom-end quarterback, bottom third of the league, and were driving to win the game and dominated time of possession. That's coaching. And by the way, weren't plagued by turnovers like the Cowboys. So I told you yesterday on the show, Dallas going to win, CeeDee Lamb's going to look really good, and Dak's going to be really solid. He was 22 of 27. Cowboys will win, and it will mean nothing. No, I mean, it means nothing. Dak is 24-4 against the Giants in Washington. 24-4. That's it, 24-4. And Washington and New York, since Dak's been in Dallas, win 38% of their games. They're terrible. They're two of the doormats. So Dak and Dallas both have benefited greatly, and Dak has benefited too. He's not getting that bag if he's in the NFC North and he's facing the Packers and he's facing the Lions. Not winning those games. But he's gotten rich. Good for him. Happy for him. Don't resent it. But Dak and Dallas have benefited greatly from having two layups in their division. And to his credit, he's beaten them, I guess. But they don't beat good teams. They don't win big road games, big standalone national TV games against the good teams. Now, for the record, Big Ben and the Steelers had this for years with Cleveland and Cincinnati. They just, before Burrow got there and Baker got there, Pittsburgh owned Cleveland and Cincinnati. But Pittsburgh got 2 Super Bowls out of it. So they were beating the layups. You know, by the way, Brady had some doormat. Miami and the Jets and Buffalo for years. But Brady paid you off in the end. I'm not blaming you if you have a couple of doormats in your division for 8 years, like Dak has. Pittsburgh had it, but you got the payoff. But what also happened with Big Ben late, Burrow's in the division now. Lamar's in the division now. Hell, Baker's in the division now. And at the end, Cincinnati and Cleveland weren't the layups. And suddenly the Steelers got really irrelevant, really fast, and brag about never being below 500. That's their standard. And the Cowboys' standard is, hey, we win 12 games a year, now kind of 8, and the 4 layups. Pittsburgh started lowering their standard. Hey, we're never 500, under 500. Yeah, but you're irrelevant in January and February, like the Cowboys. But to Pittsburgh's credit, they did get trophies out of those 2 layups for years. It did help them get home field advantage when you go 4-0 every year against the lousy Bengals and the lousy Browns. But here's what's happening. But Cleveland briefly got the right quarterback. Cincinnati got the right quarterback, and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And suddenly you get much less relevant. So here's what's happening in the NFC East. Philadelphia just needs the right coach. And even Sirianni with the right coordinator got to a Super Bowl. So Philadelphia's got better players than Dallas, and they're a better organization. Washington's got Jaden Daniels. Kid can spin it. Hey, who's he look like? Lamar Jackson. Ask Big Ben about that. So now you got a Lamar Jackson clone in the division, and the New York Giants, and I'll get to this in a second, they're just a quarterback away. That's all they are. They got the coach. So Dallas, congrats on the division titles. But you have this advantage. Brady took advantage of, for years, the Jets being dysfunctional, and the Bills being dysfunctional, and Miami being dysfunctional, because it guaranteed him 5 or 6 wins in the division. He gets the number 1 seed home playoff games. And Big Ben, to his credit, would beat Cleveland and beat Cincinnati. And he would use that to get seeding and home field advantage, and he got Super Bowls out of it. Dallas has had that. Just layups. Washington and the Giants have been layups. Dak's 24-4 against them. It's getting you home playoff games. And what are you doing with it? Getting your doors blown off by Green Bay. So this doesn't mean anything. They've been doing this for years. And by the way, those tough road games and the better teams you don't beat, I looked at your schedule this morning. Here they come. At Pittsburgh, Detroit, at San Francisco, Philadelphia, Texans, even the Atlanta game's tough. Those are games you don't win, tough road games. So I don't begrudge you for getting a couple of layups in your division, but Brady and Big Ben and the Steelers took advantage of it. But what happened after a while for Tom Brady? He looked around and went, uh-oh, Josh Allen's in the division. Then Big Ben went, oh, Lamar and Joe Burrow are in the division. Jaden Daniels is now coming to town, and if Jalen Hurts can get, who knows, Shane Steichen may say, I'm going back to Philadelphia. The way Anthony Richardson looks. I'm not begrudging anybody for taking advantage of opportunities. Generally, most great quarterbacks and coaches, I mean, when Nick Saban was in the SEC, there were so many bad coaches. Then Kirby Smart went over to Georgia, and now Lane Kiffin's in there. And here comes Sark in Texas. And Alabama doesn't have that road like they used to. Saban retires, Kalen DeBoer. The point being is Dallas has given you nothing, having this like 7-8 year advantage where Washington and New York have been garbage. Yeah, they're winning the games as Pittsburgh did, as Brady did. But those guys gave you something at the end. Dallas can't even win a second playoff game. That doesn't mean anything. All right, now I want to talk Giants. And I'm sure New York media today is pounding on them. But listen to this. Who had more first downs? The Giants. Who was better on third down? The Giants. Who had more total yards? The Giants. Who dominated time of possession? Giants. Who had a third the penalties? Giants. What I watched last night in New York was great coaching. They have no run game. Devin Singletary got no juice. Their O-line has one really high-end player left tackle. They have a bottom-tier quarterback, and we're driving for the win. Huh? Hear me out. If you took a Josh Allen and you put him on the Giants, let me ask you, you would suddenly have this. Devin Singletary at running back, Brian Dable on your offensive side, a great left tackle, tremendous defensive front. Oh, wait, and one-star weapon. That's Buffalo. Before they got James Cook. And yes, the Giants do need to upgrade at running back. Get that in the 4th, 5th round. The Buffalo Bills for years, before James Cook, had all the elements. The bones are here for the New York Giants. The bones are here. Daboll, a great left tackle, excellent defensive front, one of the best defensive tackles, great edge rusher, star weapon, and an offensive coach. The bones are here. The quarterback isn't. I mean, hell, the Giants and the Bills even play in New York. Now you're saying Colin. You're not going to get Josh Allen. No, you're not. You're probably not going to land Josh Allen. Next year's got 4 quarterbacks in the draft, first round, people like. Could be a Cam Ward, could be a Quinn Ewers, could be a Shedeur Sanders, could be the Beck kid at Georgia. You got 4. You always end up with about 4 to 5. Riley Leonard will go second round, a lot of talent, whatever. But the bones are here to the house. You think I'm crazy, right? Go look at Tampa before Brady. What do they have? One great weapon, excellent defensive front. Offensive coach, Bruce Arians. A playmaker on the outside, Mike Evans. The Giants have an excellent defensive line, a star receiver who's only getting better, an excellent left tackle, and an offensive coach. Tampa had Arians, a star weapon, a good defensive front. And then they drafted to solve one great offensive lineman at tackle, Tristan Wirfs. Houston Texans, Before they got C.J. Stroud, what did the Houston Texans have? A great left tackle. Nico Collins just needed somebody to get him the ball. They were 4th in takeaways in the NFL. I mean, they had this, the weapon, the left tackle, the defensive takeaways. So I don't buy this the Giants can't play. I'm watching last night with Brian Daboll. Dominate, this is almost unheard of, dominate time of possession with a bad quarterback and no run game. And I will say this, as I say, Daniel Jones isn't very good. Here's what's amazing, is until the final drive, Daniel Jones was good on 3rd down, no picks, dominates time of possession with no run game, and is 29